operating system and programming language. Clear? So I have a question. Why we need an operating system and why do we need a programming language? Anyone? Why do we need the operating system? Why do we need a programming language? So let's start now. So operating system, we know OS. So OS is basically the operating system. And I hope you guys knows that operating system is the first application which gets loaded into the RAM, right? OS is the first application which gets loaded into the RAM, right? So why OS gets loaded into the RAM? Or why, first of all, what is RAM? So I hope you guys know about RAM and ROM, so I'm not getting into that. So these all are the different types of memory we have on our system. So every application runs into the RAM. OS is also an application, or OS is also software, right? So OS gets loaded into the RAM, and then the important task of the OS is called virtualization. I want you guys to read about this virtualization in the operating system. Those who already aware of it, that is very good. Okay. So virtualization, this is an important topic or important task of the operating system. With the help of the virtualization, operating system lets you run the different application on your system. So basically, as I have got that operating system, so a lot of people have replied that operating system is required to run the application on our system, right? That is the correct answer. So basically, how it runs. So basically, see, there might be numerous tasks of the operating system. We are not going to discuss about the operating system. I'll just have a discussion on this for 5 minutes, and then we'll be going to the Python programming and all. Okay. So basically, what this operating system does is it does the virtualization, as well as it also does the resource management. It also does the resource management for you. Now what is this resource management? So resource management, basically, there are different resources on our system. Like, what all resources we have? You have CPU, you have memory, you have hardware devices, or you can say input output devices, right? Then you have networking devices. So these all are the different resources you have on our system, and these resources has to be managed or has to be allocated whenever you are going to run the application, right? Any application which you are going to run, that is managed by, that resource management is done by the operating system. So basically, what we can say, that if you are running the application, some that will be running in some memory, some CPU or some CPU core will be running that application, some IO devices will be accessing your application, right? And so these all are the different resources, and these resources has to be allocated, and that allocation task is done by the operating system. Okay, so what we can understand from here, the important tasks from our perspective that we are going to use. So there are many other tasks, I'm not going to get into the details of that, but from our perspective, the important task is resource management. Because when you learn Python, so for Python, the resource has to be allocated. Python memory has to be allocated. So that will be done by the OS. So that is what we are going to learn in the upcoming sessions or upcoming hours. So we'll be discussing about that. Okay. So from my perspective, as of now, the important task that we are discussing here is resource management, and this is important. What all resources you have? These all are the different resources that has to be allocated, and that is done by the operating system. How it is done? For that, you need to learn the operating system concept. Okay. Okay. Next, the question I have is, why do we need the programming language? Or what is the programming language, first of all? So programming language is basically a set of predefined words combined into a set of combined into programs with the help of a set of predefined rules. A set of predefined rules. Okay. Now, so what we see, there are few things. One is set of predefined words. The set of predefined words is called the reserved words. Okay, a set of predefined rules, that is called the syntax. Okay, grammar, basically you can say. For every programming or for every language that you learn, there should be some predefined words, there should be some predefined rules, right? So in Python, the predefined rules, we say this is the syntax, and predefined words, we say it is the reserved words. Okay, so what we can understand from here, these topics are: programming language is nothing but a combination of the reserved words and the syntaxes. Okay, so now for what purpose do we use? So I can say that programming language is used to develop the application, right? Let's say if you have a problem in your hand, for example, you want to do some calculation. Okay, so you need the calculator application, right? Let's say you want to connect to the meeting, so you need the Zoom kind of application, right? Let's say if you want to save the contact, so you need the contact application. If you want to book your schedule or see your schedule, then you need a calendar kind of application, right? So these all are the different kind of application we have for the different tasks, right? If you'll see, we have these all are the different application for doing the different kind of task on our system. Okay, and we can develop these applications using some programming language. Okay, we need some programming language to develop this application. So why we want to develop these applications? So that we can do our tasks, right? So if you want to calculate your grocery bill, monthly grocery bill, you need a calculator. If you want to join to a meeting, you need Zoom application, contact application, and calendar application are the other example. So what we can understand from here, that if we have any problem and we want to resolve that problem, we need an application for solving that problem through the computer. Now, these applications can be developed using some programming language. That's why we are learning the programming language. So in other words, can I say, can I say that programming languages are used to solve the problem, to solve the problem using computer? Correct? Not directly, but by developing the application. Correct? If you have any problem, you need to develop an application, you need to have an idea, and then you'll be start writing the program for developing the that problem. So we need a programming language for developing that application. So in other words, we can say we are solving our problems using on computer using the programming language and applications, right? Okay, so now next what we have, so next discussion we are going to have about the types of programming languages. Types of programming languages. What all programming languages we are having? So the types of programming languages we are having, number one, we are having the low level programming languages. And high level programming languages. Okay, now in the low level programming languages we are having the machine language. Okay, they are low level programming languages, are only systems can understand. We as a human beings, we cannot understand. So we have binary language here. Okay, in the binary language the codes are written in terms of 0 and 1, right? 0 and 1. And you have assembly language. Those who are in the college, they might aware of it, assembly language. Apart from this, in the high level programming languages, we have C, C++, we have Java, we have Python, etc. Now the question is, we are learning here Python. Okay, so it means we are learning high level programming language. Why we are learning high level programming language? Why we are not learning low level programming language? So just a minute. Just give me a minute. Huh? Okay, so now the question is why we are learning high level programming language, why we are not learning low level programming language, or we are when we are working with C, C++, Java or Python. So why we are having these many programming languages, or which programming languages to select, right? Let's say if you have C or C++ or Java or Python or JavaScript, you have a lot of scripting languages, lot of programming languages you have, right? So which programming? So if I'll talk about right now, there are 250 plus programming languages in the world currently, right? And which programming language to select? Let's say I'm working on Python. You can say that I can develop the same application with the Java. So why I should select Python? Or a Java programmer, why he should learn Python? Or a Python programmer, why he should learn Java, right? So these all are the different questions that arises to our mind. Fine. Okay. Okay, yeah, so there are a number of reasons, but let's see, when it comes to programming language, which programming language should we select? Okay, should we select? Okay, so there are a number of reasons we will see. Number one, the first reason I would say is the legibility and maintainability. Okay, fine. So when I'm talking about the legibility and maintainability, so whether the programming language using which you are developing the application, is it maintainable or not? For example, let's say if I will show you an example of machine code to add two number. So this is the example of the machine code to add two numbers, right? So this is the machine code. And here you can see this is the instructions. Probably you can say this is the you can see the assembly code also, I think here itself. Yeah, so these all are the assembly code, right? Okay, now so this machine code, when you are going to write just the addition operation, this is the machine code. Now you tell me that if you have to maintain this code, is it easy? Is it easy to maintain this code, or maintenance is easy at all? No. So if you will have any bug or any problem in this code, it is not easy to find, right? So it is not maintainable. And when we talk about the legibility, so how legible it is to write the code into that programming language. Okay. So for example, some programming languages are easier for us to understand. For example, if you'll be taking the example of Python code, a is equal to 10, b is equal to 20, c is equal to a plus b, a plus b, and print c. Okay, when you will when we write this code, we understand actually that what we have done here, right? So it is legible, it is understandable for us, right? So when you are writing this code, you have to check the legibility for that programming language, whether you are able to, or other user will be able to understand that code or not. Okay, when you write this code, when you give this code, probably let's suppose you have written this code, but if you'll be giving to your peer programmers or someone else will be looking at this code, probably it will be not an easy thing for him or her to understand what you have written here, isn't it? Right, so it is going to be a bit difficult for others to understand. So it is not recommended to use this kind of programming language where the maintenance and other users are not able to understand. Probably you might have written this code, but after a few weeks, when you yourself will be looking at this code, you will not be able to understand anything. You have to rewrite this code or rerun this code. Okay, anyway, so we first reason we need to look at is legibility and maintainability whenever you are looking at, or whenever you are going to select any programming language. Okay, now apart from this, so basically in this legibility, number of things comes. So like few people have said it should be user friendly, right? So it comes under that. It should be readable. Okay, it should be readable. So this also comes under that. Okay, maintainability, readable again. So if it is not readable, you will not be able to maintain it. Okay, next one we have is the performance. So based on this, we can select the programming language. As of now, legibility and maintainability is such an important feature that everyone goes towards the high level programming language. No one prefers to code into the low level or machine level or assembly level programming languages, okay? Because it takes a lots of effort for just writing a small application, okay? Now, the next one is the performance. So when you are going to select any programming language, you need to look at whether the performance is up to the mark for that language or not. Okay, so if you will compare machine language, performance of the machine language or the low level programming language is way better than the high level programming language. Why? Because we know that our system or our computers, they understand only the low level programming language, right? It means our computer understand only the language of zeros and ones. Okay, so what we know that in any programming language, or okay, so in or any system, they understand only the low level programming language. So if you will be talking about, let's say, the computer or the mobile, okay, so they understand only the language. Your CPU or your hardware, whatever components you have, they are going to understand only these signals, okay? And these signals are nothing but the binary language, 010101, right? These all are the signals, okay? Now when you are going to run this, or when you are going to feed these signals to this hardware component, they execute these signals or they execute this binary code and they give you the output. So if you are going to write any code in terms of this binary language, it will be easier for this system to understand. For example, I'll give you the example of two person, okay, person A and person B, okay, this is A and this is B. Person A understands only the language A and person B understands only the language B. Okay. Now, if this person will be talking to this language in A, he will not be able to understand anything. And if this person will be able to will be talking to this person in language B, they will not be able to understand anything. Okay. So what we need a person who can translate these things to them. Okay, so this A will be translated to B and this B will be translated to A, correct? Now when you do the translation, this is going to take the time, isn't it? Same thing happens into this system case also. So what happens when you code into the high level programming languages, okay, when you do the coding into the high level programming languages, that has to be translated to the low level programming languages. Okay, and if you are already coding into the low level programming languages, it will be easier for the computers to understand, right? Now, so in the case of high level programming languages, what is happening, the translation, because of this translation, it is taking the time and they are comparatively slower. Okay, so performance is, when performance is an important feature. And even there are two types, when there are two ways of this translation can happen. So nowadays most of the programming languages that you'll find, like Java and Python, they do two level of translation. Okay, so in this case, Java and Python, first we write the source code, okay, then we use a compiler to compile this source code to an intermediate code, okay, that may be the byte code or object code, anything. Okay, and then it will be again one interpreter or compiler will be used to interpret or compile the code. Okay, that will execute the code and that will generate either the machine code or the output. Okay, so this is the step we have nowadays in most of the programming language. So you can see that two level of translation is happening in these programming languages. So obviously it is going to be slow. It is going to be slow, whereas in the low level programming language, when you write the code in terms of binary, okay, so that will be directly given to your system and your hardware components can execute them, so it will be faster. Okay, so performance is faster, but is it legible or is it maintainable? No. So performance is important, but if you are going to code into the high level programming language, nowadays we have a kind of processors that can run or execute the billions of instructions per second, billions of instruction per second. Okay, so it performance is not an issue. We can have the hardware component which can which can perform the billions or trillions of instructions per second, and then performance is not going to be an issue. So we need to focus on these two parts, as well as performance is an important, but you need to look at the performance here. Okay, so if you look at the Pythons, so Python performance is not good compared to C or C++. Okay, so if you are developing an application where performance has to be considered as one of the parameter, then you are not going to select Python, you are going to select C or C++. So you have 250 plus programming languages, that is true, but which programming languages you are going to select depends on your requirement. If you need the performance, you're not going to select Python, you will select C or C++. If you need the faster development of the application, probably you can go for the Python. Okay, so this is one of the you can say parameter based on which we will be deciding. Okay, next what we have is the specific use case. Okay, so for example, let's say specific use case. So for example, if you want to develop the desktop application, or let's say if you want to develop the gaming application, you have the different programming languages, right? If you want to develop the web application, then you can go for Java. Desktop application, you can go for C, C++. For database application, you have the other programming languages. So what you can see from this, what you can understand from this discussion is, based on your requirement, you can select your programming languages, right? So in this case, we cannot do all the tasks from one single programming languages. Probably you may need the help of some other programming languages also. So it depends on your use case as well. Okay, next we have the available libraries. Available libraries. Now, what does it mean? So if you have more and more libraries into a programming language, it will be easier for you to do the coding into that programming languages. For example, in Python, if you will talk about, there are 2 lakhs plus libraries. Okay, libraries in Python. There are 200,000 plus libraries in Python. Let me write here number of libraries in Python. So we have 137,000 libraries plus 200 plus modules and packages including both. Okay, so you have libraries. When you talk about the libraries, we have 137,000, whereas when you talk about the complete modules and packages, if you'll include everything, then it will be coming around 2 lakhs plus libraries. Okay, library is basically, you can say, what is the library? So a book library you have, right? So you have all the books there, whatever books you want to read, you can go and read, right? So in Python, you have similar kind of library. Whatever kind of application you want to develop, you have the modules or packages defined for that, or you have the library, you just pick that library and develop that application. You want to develop the game, you have the gaming library. Yes, collection of functions or collection of the different classes, objects, or modules and packages. Okay, fine. Okay, so I hope you have understood. So if a particular programming languages is rich in its library collection, then you can say the development in that programming languages will be easier. Okay, now next we have the expressiveness. Expressiveness. So how expressive it is? We are already discussing very basic, Pavitra, and if you're not understanding, please look into these terms on the internet, you will be able to get it. Okay, so expressiveness means how expressive a programming language it is. Okay, for example, let's say if you'll talk about this Python program. Okay, you have written just 4 lines of code and you are able to get the output. So if I'll be executing this, I'm getting the output. But if the same program, if I have to write in Python, I have to write in C or C++ or Java, I may need more and more lines of code. Okay, there are a lot of dependency which you have to import in the beginning. Okay, so what you can see here is that you have written very less lines of code and you are able to express yourself. Okay, you can do lot of tasks in a single line in Python. Python is the example of functional programming language. It is the object oriented programming language. You can use these features to write the very short and concise code. Okay, fine. So These all are the different parameters which you should consider when you are going to select any programming language. Okay. Now, apart from this, the important one is the uh, uh, okay. So portability and portability and platform independent. Okay, portable and platform independent. So if you will talk about a programming language, if it is not portable, if it is not platform independent, it means, let's say if you have developed any code, just press control enter. Okay, you will be able to run your code. Control enter or shift enter. Okay, now let's say if the code which you are writing, you are not able to move it from one platform to another, it is of no use, right? For example, let's say I have this Google Chrome application. If I have developed it on Windows, I'll be able to run only on Windows. I'll not be able to run on Mac. Is it really worth? No. So it should be platform independent, right? And it should be portable also. Portable means portable and platform independent. We'll be discussing in a few minutes. But so it should be portable and platform independent. This means you understand that it should be you should be able to run the application on any platform. You need to use print C or you check your code probably. Okay, it will, you should be able to run it. Okay, so I hope you guys have understood which all things we need to consider when we are going to run a when we are going to select a programming language. Now, so let's start with this. So if you see, this all things are not available inside the low level programming language. So we don't select the low level programming language, or we don't prefer to code into the low level programming language. We prefer to code into the high level programming language. Okay,